Yo, what's up guys? Welcome to another tutorial. Today we're going to go over 3 ways you can use a gator. We're going to use it on vocals, we're going to use it on loops, and also a synth. So we're going to talk about some uncommon ways you can incorporate this into your own projects to improve your workflow and open some more creativity. Now before we get into that guys, I got some exciting news. Ali Nadem Signature Sounds Volume 1 is dropping later this month. It's going to be my first ever sample pack, and I'm going to be giving that away for free. So keep a heads up on my socials here on Shamshir Sound and on the main channel. I also dropped Shamshir Sound Episode 1, which is a 1-hour podcast, a series of amazing mixes. If you want to get pumped, you want to listen to some energetic music, check that out on SoundCloud. It's going to be uploaded on YouTube shortly. And last but not least, I just dropped a new track called Pineapple on my main channel. So if you love progressive house, check that one out. So for the first example, we're going to be using the synth. Now, this doesn't always happen, but sometimes I just slap on tons of effects one after the other, even if it's not something I'm used to, just to get inspired and to see what can manifest out of the sound. Now, I know you guys have done that. If you haven't, please do it. Mess around with effects. I'm not saying that you should always do it effects. I also love the way Brooks works in terms of making a great sound in the synth. But sometimes you can get inspired by just slapping on something and choosing a preset, and it can heavily or slightly manipulate the sound. When you do that, some of the consequences are that you get this raised noise floor, because sometimes you might put a plugin that's analog. You might put a distortion plugin that creates like a noise, and you might stop your project and wonder, hey, what's going on? Why is that noise so audible? Now, there's two sides to that story. Sometimes that noise is intentional and wanted and desirable, and that's when you have it, for instance, in a SSL compressor where it has the analog button, any of the SSL modules that have like an analog button, or in Waves H delay. That analog button, what does it do? It actually puts like a noise, something that's around like minus 90 dB, give or take, to actually kind of fill the harmonic floor and to provide this this detail, so to speak, this analog emulation. And so when it comes to the other side, because that's not what we're doing, when we have the other equation here, let's go ahead and listen to my bass in terms of what I mean. So I slapped on tons of effects because I'm like, what's going to happen when I do this? And I'm going to turn off the gate for you guys so you can hear this. And I'm going to turn off the sidechain. You see Voxengo span just started reacting. Minus 81.4. Now, it wasn't my intention to do it with that. And if anything, I could probably leave it there because it's barely audible, and that could almost fill in like a background noise in the song and maybe fill in the harmonics. So sometimes leave it, but sometimes it can get a bit extreme, especially if you start distorting afterwards. When we want to discover which one was it, I went to this one, CLA bass, and I realized it was gone. Maybe not completely, but most of it was gone. That was basically the one that was mostly responsible for that. And so if the noise is not desirable and you don't want it, an easy way to clean it up is going to be with a gate. And so with a gate, the gate is kind of like the reverse of the compressor, whereas a compressor, you set a threshold and then it will start compressing and you can compensate or automatically compensate. A compressor is going to do the reverse. So when you talk, and maybe during parts that aren't audible or areas that you don't want, it's going to close the signal. So it's like a gate. It opens a gate and it closes the gate. So think of it as kind of like a dog. You feed it the big food, and if the food's too small, okay, close the mouth. It's not going to come in and bite it. So it opens the gate, closes the gate. And let's show you guys what that does. When gate is on, that signal is basically completely taken care of. There's some modules here that are important, but you can use this in pretty much any type of gate. I really like the C1 gate because of how intuitive the signal flow is. You really get a good drawing of when that gate is going to close. And when it comes to C1 gate, you can also switch to an expander mode, and that expander mode can do a bit more subtle closing. You can see there it has more of a soft curve instead of this straight down line. So again, to reiterate, you're cleaning stuff that's below a certain threshold. So In this case, if I don't want, you can see there, if I want the noise turned off, I can simply bring it up. These modules, can't really wrap them up in simple terms. Yeah, they're dynamics, attack, release, and hold, but you have to apply it to your content and realize what you want to do. Here I'm doing something very simple, so I didn't change the attack, release, or hold. Simply I changed the gate value. So I said, you know what, okay, gate open, let's put that like -64. And now we've taken care of that sound issue. We've taken care of that background hum. So in the next example, we're using the expander mode instead of the gate mode. So the expander mode has two benefits. One being that instead of being this kind of like brick wall surgical straight line, it's a more softer curve. So with that, it's going to decrease in volume much more gradually, and you can control that by adjusting this value here. Another use of it, that's going to be a different video, is you can actually do this low level compression where it augments the item you're putting into it. You could make a clap more punchy, you can make a snare drum more punchy. So I want to play you guys this vocal. This was a vocal clip that I made for the podcast for Synnature Sound. I had to heavily clean it up because there was so much resonating frequencies in my room. It's like someone took a tooth comb through the whole frequency shelf. So I had to clean it up. That's why you see all these EQs here. So I had already denoised it using Edison. I have a video on that. You can check that out. I already started messing around with you can see here, the declicking mode, so that I could clean up unnecessary areas. And I also automated some of the volume. So take advantage of your simple tools when it comes to cleaning up vocals, as well as using something like Fruity Balance or anything to maybe make little adjustments where maybe you say a word and then there's like a click at the very end that you don't want. Now, the gate is going to help to really bring that all together and really make it clean. You can remove some more unnecessary hums or clicks. You can remove some of that breathing if you don't want the breathing in there. Sometimes the breathing is desirable. Other times it's not, especially here where I'm just saying a few words and it's like a podcast. I'm not like a rapper on the mic, you know, whereas sometimes that breathing's important. So don't always get rid of breathing because it can actually be desirable. Let's just play the first bit right here and let's turn off the gate. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Synnature Sound. Hey, what's up, guys? Hey. You can hear it has that very beginning. Let's see what happens when we turn it on. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Synnature Sound. So the speech, we can see that the speech and where you want to set where your gate opens is somewhere comfortably where, because the gate opening is saying like where, you know, it's going to talk, where your synth is going to speak, where your kick drum is going to hit with no interruption. And the moment that signal falls, again, that's where it's important, because once that signal falls, the complete gating, the gate closing is going to be affected, or the expander. Now the expander, actually, like they say in the tutorial, the manual, the expander, the gate close doesn't actually do anything. The gate close is just the value there, but it's not being used when you're in expander mode, because what's being dictated for expander mode is when is the gate opening. You can see there, that soft curve, and what is the value of this. Okay, because we're using it in a way that's not like the normal gate. But the gator mode, yes, this is affecting the actual signal. So let's come back to this. So listen to this off. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Synnature Sound. So we have like a little bit of breath at the end. It's okay, you know, it's not terrible, and most people would not notice this. And at the beginning too. Hey. So putting on that C1 gate, but being very subtle in our use. Hey, what's up, guys? Allows that beginning to kind of be cleaned up, tightened up, if you will, a bit. And then when we go to the end of the speech. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the first episode of Synnature Sound. Synnature Sound. Synnature Sound. Let's continue to listen, and we'll see, especially here. In today's mix, we're going to play some of my favorite tunes of 2018. In today's mix, we're going to play some of my favorite tunes of 2018. In today's mix, we're going to play some of my favorite tunes. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next mix. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next mix.
Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next mix.
So here the use was very subtle. I was pretty happy with it. I just wanted to tighten things up, and you can see that it does work there, and we have a lot of flexibility. So guys, feel free to throw that. In both situations here, well, the first one we used the gate mode because we just wanted open close. Here we use the expander mode in a negative value such that opens and then slowly turns down the volume. Opens and slowly turns down the volume. Because if I didn't, then it would have too drastic of an effect on my voice. Then my voice would start cutting out.
Today's mix, we're gonna play some of my favorite tunes of 2018, some old classics.
And yeah, you could argue I could just bring the gate all the way down, but then it probably wouldn't have had as impactful as an effect as doing the negative expansion, if that makes sense. Alrighty, so here we have 4 random loops I selected from Kashmir. Okay, so we have 4 random loops I selected from Kashmir's pack, and I don't know what I want to do with this. A few different random things, most of them are acoustic, and we have a little ethnic drum. Now, let's go listen to these, and we're going to introduce to the gate just slowly. Let's go ahead and listen. What I'm thinking is we can maybe close it when the hats are playing and perhaps retain just the kick, the loud stuff. Let's see if we can do that. So it's not the greatest example here because it is cutting into the hats, and then the hats are kind of so close that you would have to play around with it. Is this something you want to do? Perhaps it's better just to individually modify this. So you definitely have a more strength when you're doing this on something that has more dynamic range. So when we talk about dynamic range, I'm talking about smaller volume, bigger volume, stuff that's like quiet, loud. It has a bit of everything. Classical music, why it's so great is that they have that crescendo, they have the build up, and they have a lot of momentum in their tracks. So let's go ahead and reset this back to default, and we're gonna go ahead and listen to this. So already actually it's kind of like removed a bit of that atmosphere, which is could be bad or good, but if we keep pumping it up, so it's actually removed a lot, it's trimmed off a lot. So the reason why this could be beneficial for you guys is you can do things where you're cutting out a lot of the stuff out of the loop. You can make the loop sound a bit more authentic. And let's see if we can maybe manipulate the characteristics by changing the gate opening. And then we'll try expansion, the negative expansion. So I'm going to try the expansion, Age of Empires expansion. So I don't like the expander with this one. I would probably just leave gate and maybe a really high amount. Just be careful because when we hear it like coming in and out, you guys got to really optimize it because it can make things not sound natural anymore because now they're cutting out all of a sudden. But nonetheless, it's going to open up a lot of creativity, and especially on loops that have more dynamic range. So see on this one here. This one's kind of like a classic hit. This is really cool, actually. I didn't expect this to happen. This loop actually sounds drier as a result because we're gating the reverb. We're closing that reverb. And so this is actually a really cool example. I'm happy with the way this came out. So you never know what will happen. If you put it on a snare that has a huge reverb, you can make that snare dry again. If you put on something like this, again, you can make it dry, you can supplement your own reverb, or you can be happy with that dryness and continue with your own effects chain, whatever you want to do. So that's cool. I like that result there. And here's the last one. It's a tom. We'll see if maybe we can isolate the toms, I'm thinking. But, you know, I don't know. I haven't listened to these. This one's a hard one because the hits are so loud that they're close to the tom level. So maybe we can work with expander. By bumping up the release to 150. And one thing I want to say is that I actually thought that adjusting attack higher would preserve transients. No, it seems like bringing it down changes how fast the gate responds, thus allowing transients to cut through. So play around with it. But what I was saying was that by bumping up the release to 150, it reduced that jitteriness of it, and the overall result when we listen to it off kind of reduces a bit of the bass while still letting the tom cut. Kind of tames a bit of those kicks in the initial part. So that wraps it up for this video, guys. I hope you learned something here and you can implement it on your loops. Try experimenting with the gate on your loops. Try it out on your synth, especially if you need to do some cleaning of noise or something that you didn't want. Then you can clean that up, especially if you guys use plugins like Isotope Trash or any distortion plugin or anything that has distortion but maybe can't eliminate that noise floor. You can go ahead and do that manually with a gate. And of course, last usage was on the vocal. Now I really love C1 gate, and I'm gonna link it in the video description. C1 gate is beautiful just because of how nice this looks. And you guys can use anything, but always find something that you love using. Don't use this just because I'm using it. Try it out for yourself and find something that works for your workflow. I've tried many gates. I've used the one by FabFilter, and I'm not a fan of it just because I love the window here. I love the volume meters and everything. Everything's very legible. So that wraps it up for this video, guys. Hope you guys liked it. If you guys enjoyed it, go ahead and give it a like. If you didn't like it, give it a dislike. Drop a comment. Let me know any suggestions. And if you guys have any suggestions for my sample pack, I'm a bit over 700, 800 samples by now, but I have a bunch of stuff, and I'm excited to drop that later this month. So, guys, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified of my uploads, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take it easy.